The main purpose of this video is to learn how to answer exam questions. If you like reading more than watching videos, and if you like reading from paper, not from the screen, then you should get this wonderful 1.8 kilo book that is printed on high quality paper in color. Black and white version is also available. To get this book, send me a direct message on boosty.to/lewwinski and I'll be able to give you shipping and payment details. If you're a school and want to get this book as well, in bulk, then you can reach me at ilya@lewwinski.ru. This book is really expensive, it will take at least 1 month to make, but it's totally worth it. If you're fine with watching videos and reading from the screen, then you should definitely subscribe to boosty.to/lewwinski. There you can be the first one to see the most reliable and up-to-date version of Lewwinski Business Management, and most importantly, request feedback for your internal assessment, extended essay, or parts of it, or you can write a 10-marker response and ask for feedback. You can ask anything. Personalized feedback is the main advantage of subscribing to Lewwinski on Boosty. In the video that you're just about to watch, I'm gonna give an overview of how to answer exam questions. This overview is totally enough to understand how to answer all question types, but if you want to see some sample questions, sample answers, to hear a more detailed step-by-step explanation about how to answer exam questions, and most importantly, if you want to write sample exam questions and send them for feedback to ask how you can improve, then you should subscribe to boosty.to/lewwinski. Go to that website, see other benefits that are provided with subscription. In the meantime, enjoy watching this video and learn how to answer all types of exam questions. There are 4 major types of exam questions in the business management course. These 4 types correspond to the 4 assessment objectives. Assessment objective is abbreviated as AO. AO means assessment objective. So there are 4 assessment objectives. AO1 means that you are simply required to demonstrate knowledge. AO2 kinds of questions ask you to explain things, explain different concepts. AO3 questions require you to evaluate things and to demonstrate your opinion or judgment with the help of what you learned in the business management course. And AO4 questions ask you to simply apply skills, use the business tool, or calculate stuff. So these are the 4 major types of questions: AO1, AO2, AO3, AO4. In addition to the assessment objective, questions can also be divided by how many marks you score if you answer them correctly. Based on this, there are 1 markers, 2 markers, 4 markers, 6 markers, 10 markers, and 17 markers. But what's more important is not to identify how many marks there are in the question, but to identify the assessment objective, because this will determine the strategy how to answer the given question. In order to simplify your understanding of exam questions, I created a table. As you can see, there are 2 types of AO1 questions: 1 marker plus double 1 marker, or 2 marker and double 2 marker. There are also 2 kinds of AO2 questions. The first category is 2 marker, 4 marker, and 2 plus 2 plus 2 6 marker. They are essentially different versions of AO2 2 marker. It's 2 marker or double 2 marker or triple 2 marker. That is why they're all in one category. And the second type of AO2 question is 3 plus 3 6 marker, or simply 3 6 marker. There are also 2 types of AO3 questions: 10 marker and 17 marker. 17 marker is for higher level students only, and it's only in paper 3, by the way. And lastly, there are AO4 questions that ask you to apply skills, calculate stuff, or apply a business tool. For the first type of question, AO1 1 marker or double 1 marker, all you gotta do is state. There can be a question like state a feature of sole traders, or state a feature of whatever. All you gotta do is just state. You don't need to explain anything, you don't need to provide any examples. This applies to 1 marker and double 1 marker for the questions that ask you to state something. For AO2 2 markers or double 2 markers, you are asked to define things. For a good definition, you gotta state the definition in 1 sentence and explain it in an extra sentence. So a 2-sentence answer is fine. State, explain. That's the strategy. In AO2 questions for 2 markers and 4 markers or double 2 markers and 2 plus 2 plus 2 6 markers or triple 2 markers, you gotta apply the strategy state, explain, apply. If it's 2 marks question, then all you do is state, explain, apply. If it's 4 marker, you do state, explain, apply twice. If it's a 6 marker, you do state, explain, and apply 3 times. Now, what is state, explain, and apply? State is simply saying in one question the correct thing, a definition or a feature. It's like a knowledge point. You demonstrate knowledge, you answer the question in one brief sentence saying the right thing. Explain is explain. It's exactly what it is. You gotta elaborate on that knowledge point that you made in your state sentence and add an extra feature or break it down further. Just elaborate on it. Just explain it in one more sentence. Apply in this case means apply the context. Apply the information in the case study. All BM questions are based on a case study and you gotta use information from it. Most of the time, you will not be able to find direct confirmation of what you are saying in state and explain in the case study. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do apply in this case. You have to, but you need to work with that information. You need to take data that is given and make an assumption. So in apply sentence, make sure you're using very specific information from the case study to support your answer. So that's a 2-marker, state, explain, apply, 4-marker, same thing but twice, and 2-2-2, 6-marker, where you do the same thing but 3 times. If you're lost, then let me remind you that we have just discussed the first type of questions in the AO2 category. 3 plus 3, or simply 3-3, 6-marker is only for higher level students in paper 3. The way you answer 3-3, 6-marker in paper 3 as a higher level student is state, explain in depth, apply, times 2. This is pretty similar to AO2 2 markers. You still state the main thing in one sentence, you make a knowledge point, then you explain it, but you explain it more in depth compared to 2 marker. Perhaps 2 or 3 sentences will do. And then you apply information from the case study to support your answer. This will be your first paragraph. Then you do the same thing. For each of those paragraphs, you can score up to 3 marks. So 3 plus 3 equals 6. This explains how to answer 3-3 6 markers. Now let's move on to AO3 category, where we have 10 markers and 17 markers. 17 markers are also for higher level students only in paper 3. 10 marker is an essay kind of question, so your response should be longer compared to 2 markers, 4 markers and 6 markers that we've already discussed. Here you should structure your answer in 6 paragraphs. These paragraphs are pro, con, conclusion, and limitations. For each paragraph there is a separate strategy. For pro and con paragraphs, the first 4 paragraphs in your answer, you use the same strategy. This strategy is called state, explain, apply, apply. Quite similar to 2 markers, but there's a second apply. State is, you already know what state is, explain is elaborating on state, apply is apply context, finding information in the case study, and the second apply is apply concept. This means that you have to elaborate on what you've just said in the paragraph using a concept from business management course. For example, in your state sentence, you may say that, on the one hand, it will lead to increased motivation. In explain, you will say that this will lead to increased motivation because according to Taylor's scientific management, more money means more motivation. In the third sentence, you will apply information from the case study, apply context. As it says in the case study, people in organization XYZ are really motivated by money, so this should work. And then you should use the second apply. You should remember what you learned in business management course and apply it in that sentence. For example, you might say, if people are motivated, they're more productive, which can lead to economies of scale. Economies of scale in this case will be your apply concept point. This way, in 4 or 5 sentences, you will elaborate on your pro or on your con. What is pro and con, by the way? So in 10 marker, you will need to make a decision for a company, or you will need to compare 2 options. If you are asked to make a decision whether organization should or should not do something, then your pro is argument for the decision and con is your argument against the decision. And then you will have another argument for and another argument against. It's always pro, con. If you're asked to compare 2 options, then your first pro and con will be about option 1 and the second pro and con will be about option 2. Regardless, the structure is always the same. Pro, con, argument for, argument against, argument for, argument against. For each of these 4 paragraphs, which are called analytic paragraphs, where you do not show your opinion yet, you just analyze things, you apply the same strategy. State, explain, apply context, apply concept. Then in the 5th paragraph of your 10 marker response, you should write a conclusion. The strategy for conclusion is priority, where you explain what is the priority for a company, perhaps based on its mission statement or objectives. Then you should make a decision for a company, whether option 1 is better or option 2, or whether they should or should not make a decision. It all depends on the question. And then you should talk about trade-offs. So let's say the question asked you, should company XYZ do something? If your answer is yes, they should do something, then your 2 trade-offs will be the 2 cons that you discussed before. For each of those cons, you should say, however, this decision will come with this trade-off. In order to overcome it, the organization may do this and that. Or, even though this is a trade-off, it can be neglected because of a certain reason. Then you do it twice. There will always be two trade-offs. However, if the question asked you to select option 1 or option 2, and in your decision you choose option 1, then your trade-offs will be the disadvantage of selected option and the advantage of the neglected option. Regardless, there will always be two trade-offs. It just depends whether it's two cons or one pro and one con. In the last paragraph, you gotta talk about limitations. Limitations is not the same as cons. Cons refers to your argument. Limitations refer to the case study, to the information that is provided. So in the last paragraph, I advise you to talk about two limitations, two things that you think will help you to make a better judgment, to analyze this situation better. You may say the first limitation is lack of financial data. I will need financial data, to be more specific, cash flow forecast or cash flow statement, because I need to make a judgment about organizational liquidity in certain months so that I can extrapolate it. And then you do the same thing for the second limitation. So for each limitation, state what it is and explain why this information is important for you. That's it. This is how you answer 10 markers. 6 paragraphs: pro, con, conclusion, and limitations. The first 4 paragraphs have the same structure: state, explain, apply context, apply concept. Conclusion has a different structure: priority, decision, trade-off 1, trade-off 2, and limitations have a different structure: state limitation and explain it, and do it twice. Now, 17 markers are for higher level students only in paper 3. The structure for 17 marker is also 6 paragraphs, which are introduction, short-term aspect of an action plan, evaluation of the short-term aspect, long-term aspect of the action plan, and evaluation of the long-term aspect, and finally, conclusion. In 17 markers, you are asked to create a sustainable action plan for 5 years for a social enterprise. All questions will be related to that. So in introduction, you apply the same strategy as in 10 marker analytic paragraphs. State, explain, apply context, apply concept. You need to say what's the problem, why it is a problem, what kind of action plan is required, and make sure you use information from the case study and you support it with business management vocabulary, business concepts that you learned in the BM course. In short-term or long-term aspect in paragraphs 2 and 4, you also use the same strategy. You state what the organization should do in the short term or in the long term, you explain why it is so, you provide examples from the case study, and you use business management concepts to support your answer. In evaluation of the action plan of its short-term aspect in paragraph 3 and its long-term aspect in paragraph 5, you also use state, explain, apply strategy. But in each paragraph you gotta do it twice, because your analysis should be balanced. Regarding the short-term aspect of an action plan, on the one hand it brings that benefit. This is a benefit because in the case study it says blah blah blah, and eventually it will lead to economies of scale or some other business concept. On the other hand, it will lead to that, explain, apply context, apply concept. Same thing in paragraph 5, you gotta provide balanced analysis, and for each side, for each hand, on the one hand, on the other hand, you state, explain, apply, and apply. In the end, you write a conclusion that is very similar to 10 marker conclusion. You say what the priority for the social enterprise is, why it is a priority, should or should not organization accept the action plan that you provide. Of course, it should accept it. And then you talk about 2 trade-offs. Trade-offs come from evaluation paragraphs. These are the 2 cons. The con of your short-term action plan and long-term action plan. You gotta remind the reader what those trade-offs are, what those cons are, and how to deal with them, why they could be neglected, or how to overcome them. That's it. This is the 6-paragraph structure for AO3, 17 marker for higher level students only. Now it's the last question type, AO4 questions. In these questions you apply the skill, use a business tool, calculate different things. There is no one way to answer those questions. I cannot give you one strategy because it depends on the particular skill. So you should just review the syllabus or open the subject guide and see which chapters have assessment objective 4. For example, break-even analysis, investment appraisal. You might be asked to prepare a balance sheet or calculate ratios. These are all AO4. They can be 1 mark, 2 mark, 3 mark, 4 mark, they can be anything. And there's no one structure, one way to answer them. You just gotta know every single tool or calculation or document that is included in the BM syllabus, and you gotta do it right. If you would like to have a more detailed explanation, of strategies, with some real examples and sample answers, and you want to see a full list of chapters that are included in A04, in Assessment Objective 4, apply skill, calculate stuff, and etc., then please subscribe to me on boosty.to/lewwinski. Keep track of new videos that I post there, new chapters, and make sure you talk to me. Direct messaging is available there. You can ask a question, you can send your answer for feedback, you can even send your IA or EE or parts of it. I'll be really happy to help all my subscribers. See you there, bye bye.